Welcome to the Birds vs. Boys Game Day Reaction Show. Week 2 in the books for the Philadelphia Eagles. 2-0 after an absolute masterclass on Monday Night Football. Dominance from start to finish. Hype crowd. Never felt like it was a doubt. And the debut of the Jalen Hurts MVP campaign? I think we have to talk about it. Eagles win 24-7. It was the score at halftime. It was the score at the end of the game. It was the score at halftime of the NFC Championship. Major NFC Championship vibes again tonight. Primetime game, under the lights. Crowd was insane. We've been sitting through a lot of like Phillies games where we're talking about like, hey, where's the crowd? That was a Philly crowd. That was absolutely awesome. Eagles led from start to finish. Barely any doubt at any point tonight. And you just look at both offensively and defensively, a ton of good things to write home about. You could not be more hype. You could not be excited for next week going to Washington, division rival, playing Carson Wentz. This is where this is addicting. Philadelphia sports, when they are good, are worse than drugs because you cannot stop. The euphoria, the high that comes from winning a game in prime time like this, where you just dominate your opponent, there is no better feeling in life. I hate when people tell me, oh, my firstborn child, oh, it was the best moment of my life. No, completely dominating on Monday Night Football is 100 times better. I don't want to hear it. Let's start. I said there's going to be a lot of good things to go over. Let's start with Jalen Hurts, the man of the hour, the man of the year, the man of the season. He had 333 yards passing on an 83% completion percentage. And oh, by the way, just factor in 2 rushing touchdowns with that too. It was a phenomenal performance. And when you talk Eagles primetime Monday Night Football performances, you talk the Mike Vick game against Washington in 2010. You talk the Carson Wentz Washington game in 2017. And now you talk tonight, the Jalen Hurts masterclass that you saw tonight, where last week we saw progression. And we talked about it on our Wednesday show for Birds vs. Boys. There was control. It felt like Jalen Hurts was in total control of that game. Now, part of that was marred by the fact that our defense was not in control. We allowed tons of chaos against the Lions, which that win now looks better too. But again tonight, I thought you saw the best Jalen Hurts performance that we have seen to date, where every throw was on time, on target. We talked about his 83% completion percentage. 2 of those drops, or 2 of those incompletions were drops. One of them for the interception, which was off Kenny Gainwell's hands. The other one should have been a great grab by Dallas Goedert. So he was putting the ball on time, on target, mixing it around. You saw the huge bomb to Quez Watkins. A.J. Brown got involved later, and there was a key emphasis on getting it to Devontae Smith after 0 catches last week, and he just mixed it around to everybody involved. The offense did whatever they wanted to do. Troy Aikman brought it up on the broadcast where he said, you know what? Shane Steichen, that playlist is a mile long because they can try anything and it's working. It was just one of those nights. Everything worked for the offense, but it starts with Jalen Hurts. One, you see him bailing out of the pocket less. He was standing in, making the throws, hitting the guys on time, on target, like we talked about. Short routes, intermediate routes, and the deep throws. I thought in all 3 phases of throws, he was fantastic. When he did run, it was successful. And again, just the weight room strength on both of his rushing touchdowns. There's a reason the kid can squat 600 pounds. Like, we are really actually cooking with something now. That is, we are coming off a weekend and a season with the Phillies where we're just like, I'll believe if they can get this done. If they can step up in this big moment, I'll believe. They didn't. They got swept. Jalen Hurts tonight in primetime, national TV, against a team that had an incredibly impressive win last week against the Packers. He dominated. He was the star of the show. And it's one of those things where you wanted to see that win to believe. This was a team last year that didn't beat people over 500 at the end of the year when they were faced with an actual Super Bowl contender. They got ran off the field to end their season. And then you come back, and I do think the Vikings are going to be pretty good. We'll get into the dilemma that they are going to have every year. We'll get into it. But I just thought that from Jalen Hurts tonight was just the moment for a lot of Eagles fans, including myself, where you're like, there is belief now. This was awesome. He was awesome. The team was awesome around him. And I just can't sing his praises enough for what I saw. Like, that was incredible. I don't even know. Hilarious weekend in the NFL where it's not even going to be one of the best performances quarterback-wise because of what Tua and Lamar Jackson did yesterday. But, oh, my goodness. Like, Jalen Hurts is up there now. Like, we're talking about him. the MVP thing is real. Like, it's very, very early. So obviously things can change, but stats wise, he's up there. He absolutely is up there. The problem with the very early MVP campaign is that Josh Allen simultaneously was doing the same thing against the Titans, and he had 4 touchdowns. They won 41-7. It was absolute dominance by the Bills and Eagles tonight. That would be a fun Super Bowl. The world might collapse. I don't know. I can't remember who hosts this year, but God bless whatever city has to deal with those 2 fan bases if we showed up for a Super Bowl. We're talking about a Super Bowl. A little bit carried away, but this is Philadelphia, so not really. So Jalen Hurts, awesome. Devontae Smith involved. A.J. Brown, again, just dragging people after the catch. And everything just looked easy. They looked like layups, but we talk about this with a lot of quarterbacks in the league that you have to hit your layups. You have to be accurate on those passes. And there just never was a doubt in these first 2 weeks with Jalen and the control that he has had, which is just having that trust in a quarterback we haven't felt in a very long time, where you're like, I know that this guy will make the right play. I know he'll slide when it's time. I know he won't fumble in an opportune time. I know that he can. Now you're thinking, I know that he can use his arm to make plays, which we probably didn't have that before. So it's on. I'm going to be doing the Jalen Hurts MVP campaign. If he keeps playing like this, I'll put shirts out. We'll get it going. The other side of the ball, this is fascinating. That performance by Kirk Cousins, I am in disbelief. I have never seen a quarterback that discombobulated before. That was worse than the Sam Darnold ghost game. At least with Sam Darnold, he was young and facing a Patriots defense that was Stephon Gilmore and all those guys was historically good. This is an Eagles team that gave up 35 points to the Lions last week, and we were like, hey, when do we cut ties with this defensive coordinator? Could he last all season? And then Kirk Cousins comes out tonight. I genuinely don't know what that was. That was insane. I'm in total shock at some of the throws that he was making. Darius Slay, if we're talking heroes of the night, if it's not Jalen Hurts, it's Darius Slay, where if you were a Philadelphia person long enough, you know how this goes. You knew Justin Jefferson was going to go off on us, and he didn't. He had just 1 reception covered by Darius Slay. Slay had 2 interceptions. And he probably could have 6. I'm not joking. The one right before he had an interception, there's one in his feet. There's one that hit him in the chest. I cannot get over the game plan for Kirk Cousins, which was to backpedal and then loft it up into traffic. We could have had 6 or 7 interceptions. Part of that was finally getting pressure. We waited about 6 quarters to see that from the Eagles defense, but Jonathan Gannon, congrats on being off the shit list for a week. We'll talk again next week if you let Carson Wentz beat us. But for the time being, you're off the list. You were out of the guillotine, my friend. And it's just like the perfect combination of, I thought what he did well is when he timed the pressure. So I thought there were times where he brought it in big moments, like a 2nd and 10, something like that. And it was just working so well. And there was just like this deer in headlights moment for Kirk Cousins, where he just looked like this deer on the turnpike and a car is coming at him at 80 miles an hour and he doesn't know what to do. That's how Kirk Cousins played a football game in prime time tonight. And it got to the point where the Eagles were just sending everybody. It was like watching an 8-year-old play Madden who just chooses engage 8 every time, except this one worked because on the after the Hurts interception off Gainwell's hands, they get the ball. They've got a goal to go situation, and the Eagles are just sending the house, and Cousins was just throwing it up, and it led to the interception. So the well-timed pressure and then the advancement and kind of adjustment to be like, okay, this guy's not adjusting to the pressure. Let's keep bringing it. Let's keep getting after him. So that's the things that we talked about. Adjustments on defense, bringing blitzes on defense, using Hassan Reddick, and just bringing the linebackers. Another thing, it's great to have linebackers who are good at football. Like, I don't understand why we just pretended that was a position that we just didn't care about. It's like finding buried treasure. Like, wow, I'm set for life now. I didn't know about this before, but now that I've unlocked this treasure, I will be set for life. That's how I feel with these linebackers. And then, of course, the captain, Darius Slay. That was one of my all-time performances. And I feel good for him because there was a Monday Night Football game where he was just tasked with following DK Metcalf around, and it pretty much went the opposite of tonight. where DK had like 9 receptions. They got into a scuffle with each other with that DK started, and it just felt like it wasn't a good night for Darius Slay, and he was just kind of left on that on his own with DK. Tonight, though, Justin Jefferson looked like Tom Hanks in Castaway. Like he was just stranded on an island. And I know part of that is Kirk Cousins just being full on primetime Kirk Cousins, but Darius Slay was all over the place. The secondary in general was. The the Vikings ran 6 plays in the first quarter, and a lot of that because the defense was making a lot of plays on the balls. TJ Edwards had one, James Bradbury had one, and Darius Slay had one. Like, it was incredible. And then Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, the Vikings had 11 carries for 62 yards. That was the clip of Trump when he's like, "Nope, I have no plan. There's no strategy. I have no plan." Well, that was the Vikings tonight. It just looked like they got discombobulated early. The crowd was into it. They couldn't sustain momentum. They had one scoring drive. The Eagles immediately recovered and bounced back and scored and then put up points before the half again with the field goal. And they just never recovered. And it was just the perfect storm of Kirk Cousins just looking like a discombobulated buffoon. It was perfect. It was just a perfect night, perfect weather. Stars were out. James Harden, who I was told was just like the worst, who was like the Antichrist in Brooklyn, is now like friends with the Eagles, supports the city, supports his teammates. So it was cool to see him there. Bryce Harper there, Bradley Cooper, the cast from Abbott Elementary as well. So I was just like one of those nights where you're like, what went wrong? And I believe if Darius Slay is healthy, which assuming with how he was reacting after the game, he is, you're going to be healthy going forward into week 3. If there's anything, I think it's the penalties on the offensive line. The Eagles were penalized 8 times for 60 yards. That has to be cleaned up, and a lot of that was the offensive line. Again, the illegal man downfield situation. I know some of that, like Sayamala was just looking for somebody to block, so he started just like shuffling downfield looking for somebody, and he didn't go that far. I can't remember if the rule is 5 yards or 3 yards or 2 or what it was. It looked like he only went like 2-3 yards, and they called it on him. That was rough. The offensive pass interference. I mean, I don't even think Devontae Smith made contact with the guy. So again, that's like a problem from last year that needs to be cleaned up. So if you take one thing away from it, it might be the penalties. But aside from that, I don't see how you could have any complaints with how that game went. Just an absolute just rip the barn, like storm. I don't know, just incredible, just absolutely incredible performance from the offense and the defense. And you're a little bit surprised, but pleasantly surprised on both sides. With Jalen Hurts looking like he belongs as a quarterback in the NFL, with the defense and Jonathan Gannon probably or finally putting things together and, just like looking like a competent defense. And Kirk Cousins is a guy, I know I've made fun of this entire show, but he has ripped apart the Eagles in the past. Quarterbacks who are accurate quarterbacks and above average have torn this offense or this defense apart in the past. We think back to last year where like Derek Carr, who is like Kirk Cousins, great value Kirk Cousins, who completed 80% of the passes. And then tonight you look at it where Kirk Cousins barely cracked 200 passing yards. It was awesome. I wish every week was like that. Cherish nights like this where everyone has been drinking since literally the news was on this morning at 9 a.m. with people in the parking lot. A guy had a whole pig. I don't know where he found that thing. If you live on a farm, you may want to check because that guy took your pig and took it to the tailgate. That was popping up everywhere. We got a skull chant again, which is great. Just like such an easy fan base to troll. I don't know how you do this every year. The color scheme's awful. The team is usually average. The quarterback is just dreadful to watch. Oh, and it's negative 17 degrees the entire year. You can talk shit on Eagles fans all you want. I will live in Philadelphia 101 times out of 100. Yes, this is directed directly at Justin Jefferson, who said he was happy that he was drafted there. Tonight, I am all smiles. I just can't believe that happened. That is the most fun I've had watching an Eagles game in so freaking long. That was awesome. This team might be awesome. I'm so excited. This is now where you're like, okay, get me to Sundays. Let me look at the schedule. What's the rumors going on with the team and the injuries and everything like that? It's a drug. There's no drug more powerful in the entire world than Philadelphia sports. It is an addiction that will never be cured. When teams are good in Philadelphia, it is addicting. That's where we're at. So looking ahead, We'll have the show this week with Kevin and I breaking down week 3. We both play division rivals. The Cowboys will play the Giants. We will play Carson Wentz and the Commanders. I would be shocked if that stadium isn't 70-30 Eagles fans, but we'll see. Should be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. Again, great night. No complaints. All smiles. We win 2-0. Look at us go.